The phone buzzed against the nightstand like something trying to claw its way out. I grabbed it before the second ring finished, and her voice came through in a whisper so tight it barely had breath behind it. "Dad, come get me." I sat up in the dark, heart slamming against my ribs. "Where are you? Are you hurt?" A pause. Fabric rustling. A door somewhere in the background clicking shut, soft and deliberate, like someone didn't want it to be heard. Then a second voice, older, colder, cutting in from somewhere close to the phone. "She's not going anywhere. Put that down." The line went dead. I was already pulling on my boots before I understood what my hands were doing. "My name is Robert Halloway. I'm 61 years old, and for 34 years I've run Halloway Millwork, a custom cabinetry business I built out of a two-car garage in 1992 with $4,000 of savings and a second-hand table saw. Today it does $2.3 million a year in revenue, employs 11 people, and put my only daughter, Emily, through college without a dime of debt. Emily is 29. 3 years ago she married a man named Derek Voss, and I welcomed him the way I welcome everyone, with an open hand and a closed mouth about my doubts. Derek's mother, Patricia Voss, made it clear from the first Thanksgiving that she considered our family a rung below hers. She wore that opinion like perfume. You couldn't see it, but you sure could smell it. What I didn't know, that night the phone rang at 2 a.m., was that Patricia had been slowly, methodically dismantling my daughter's life for the better part of a year, her marriage, her finances, and eventually, her name on paper. And she was doing it in a house I had personally co-signed a $340,000 mortgage on, 18 months earlier, as a wedding gift to 2 kids who I thought were building a future together. I was about to find out how wrong I was. I got the full picture 3 weeks after that phone call, once Emily was finally willing to talk. It started, she told me, on a Tuesday evening in March. She'd come home early from work with a headache, key already in the door, when she heard laughter from the kitchen, Patricia's laugh, sharp and performative, the kind she saved for company. Emily said she stopped in the hallway before going in. Patricia was sitting at the kitchen island with a glass of Emily's Good Sancerre, wearing the cream cashmere cardigan she never took off in front of outsiders, talking to a woman Emily didn't recognize. "Honestly, Diane, the girl means well," Patricia was saying, swirling the wine. "But you should see how she keeps this kitchen. I had to have Derek get her a cleaning service because I wasn't about to eat off these counters. And the money, my God, don't get me started on where Daddy's money actually comes from. Sawdust and staples, if you ask me. Derek deserves so much better, but he's loyal. Too loyal, honestly." Emily said she stood in that hallway for almost a full minute, holding her purse, listening to a woman drink her wine in her kitchen while insulting her father's life's work to a stranger. She didn't go in. She turned around, walked back to her car, and sat there for 20 minutes before she could make herself breathe normally enough to drive. She never told me. Not then. She thought it would hurt me more than it hurt her. She was wrong, but I understand why she did it. After the 2 a.m. call, I didn't confront anyone. I just started paying attention. Emily came to stay with me and her mother, Carol, for what she called a little space, and I used that space to quietly review the mortgage documents I'd co-signed. I called the bank, identified myself as a co-borrower, and asked for a current statement. The account was 2 payments behind. 2 payments on a house I'd helped guarantee that Emily didn't even know was late. I called Derek. I kept my voice level, the way I do when a client tries to lowball an invoice. "Derek, the mortgage is behind. What's going on?" He didn't miss a beat. "Bob, it's a cash flow timing issue, that's all. Mom's been helping us restructure some of our debt-to-income ratio so we can refinance at a better rate next year. She's got a guy at her bank, does this for a living. It's all very above board. We just moved some funds into an escrow bridge account temporarily. It'll self-correct by Q3. It sounded reasonable. It was also, I'd learn, complete fiction. I told Derek that made sense, thanked him for the update, and hung up. Inside, something had gone cold and very still. I hired a forensic accountant I'd used once for a business dispute, a sharp, unshowy woman named Renata Cole. 2 weeks later, she handed me a folder that turned my stomach. There was no escrow bridge account. There was a joint checking account Patricia had convinced Derek to open, an account Emily's name was never added to. into which Derek had been depositing half his paycheck for 11 months. $47,600 of it had gone into that account. From there, $31,000 had gone to a real estate deposit on a condo in Patricia's name, in a building 40 minutes away. Patricia was building herself an exit and funding it with her son's marriage. The final piece came almost by accident. Emily went back to the house to collect more of her things, and I drove her, waiting in the car in the driveway. She left the front door slightly open behind her, and through it, I heard Patricia's voice from the kitchen, not troubling to lower it. "She'll be gone within the year. Derek, mark my words. Then you sign that condo over the way we discussed, and none of it touches you in the divorce. Her father's too soft to make trouble. Man builds cabinets for a living. He's not exactly lawyering up." I sat in that driveway with my hands on the wheel, and I did not go inside. Soft. She'd called me soft. I'd been called worse by better people. I made a decision in that driveway, and I want to explain the thinking behind it, because it was the most important choice I made in this whole ordeal. Patricia had built her entire plan on one assumption, that I was a harmless, checkbook-writing father who wouldn't know a forensic audit from a fishing license. So I decided to give her exactly that man. At the next family dinner, I showed up in my work flannel with sawdust still on the cuffs, even though I hadn't been in the shop that day. I let my hearing aid act up twice during the conversation, asking Patricia to repeat herself, watching her sigh with barely concealed impatience. When Derek mentioned refinancing, I nodded slowly and said, "Whatever you two think is best, I don't understand all that banking stuff anyway." And I meant for every word of it to land soft and foolish in the room. Internally, I was doing math. I let my shoulders round forward. I let my fork hover indecisively over the same piece of chicken for 3 full minutes. Carol, my wife, caught my eye once across the table. She knew exactly what I was doing, because we'd built a business together for 3 decades, and she'd seen me negotiate with harder men than Patricia Voss by pretending I couldn't do long division. A confused old man asks no threatening questions. A confused old man gets shown the whole board, because nobody bothers hiding cards from someone they've already decided has lost the game. Renata helped me build the bait. We drafted a document, a fake refinancing proposal on official-looking letterhead from a mortgage brokerage that offered to consolidate the Voss household debt at a shockingly favorable rate, on the condition that all account holders, including any silent contributors, disclose full financial records for review. I accidentally left a printed copy of it on the kitchen table during a visit, tucked inside a folder with my company's cabinetry invoices, the kind of paperwork Patricia had made clear she found beneath her notice. I made sure to mention, vaguely and unprompted, that my accountant was helping me get my affairs in order for retirement, and that I might restructure some of my assets soon. Then I waited. I'd asked Emily, with her full knowledge and consent, to leave her phone recording on the kitchen counter during a visit 2 days later, propped inside an open recipe book. A good excuse for it to be sitting out, screen down, microphone up. I sat in my truck outside, 3 houses down, with my own phone buzzing softly on the passenger seat every time the recording app pinged a new segment. 40 minutes in, it happened. Patricia's voice, unmistakable, came through the feed. "If he's really restructuring his estate, Derek, we need Emily's name on that house paperwork changed before he finds out about the condo money. I don't want a whiff of this reaching whatever lawyer he's suddenly playing footsie with. The old fool doesn't know a mortgage from a miter's saw, but I'm not taking chances." I sat in that truck with my hand flat on the dashboard, steadying myself, and I felt something settle into place. Not anger anymore. Certainty. We staged it at Emily's 30th birthday dinner. 3 weeks later, at Patricia's country club, her turf, her rules, her audience of 30 guests including 2 of her bridge club friends, and, at my quiet request, Renata Cole, seated near the back in a navy dress, holding a slim leather folder. Patricia couldn't help herself. 2 glasses of Chardonnay in, she raised her flute for a toast and delivered it like a blade wrapped in ribbon. "To Emily," she said, smiling around the table, "who I hope, in this next year, finally learns what it means to run a proper household. The way she was raised, bless her father's efforts, isn't quite the way we do things in this family." A few guests laughed uncertainly. Emily's hand found mine under the table. I stood up. I didn't raise my voice. I never do. Patricia, before we toast, I think there's something the table should know, since you brought up how families do things. The room quieted the way rooms do when they smell blood. 11 months ago, you convinced my son-in-law to open a joint account without his wife's knowledge and route $47,600 of household income into it. $31,000 of that went toward a deposit on a one-bedroom condo on Ferris Street, in your name. Patricia's smile didn't move, but her knuckles went white around the stem of her glass. This is a private family matter, Robert, and frankly, you also missed 2 mortgage payments on the house I co-signed. I continued, voice level, and told me it was a refinancing strategy. It wasn't. It was you draining your son's marriage to fund your exit before you pushed my daughter out of it. I nodded once to Renata. She rose, walked over, and set the folder gently in front of Patricia. Bank statements, the condo deposit receipt, and a transcript of the kitchen recording. Derek, I said, turning to him, my voice still quiet. I heard your mother tell you to get Emily's name off the house deed before I found out about the condo money. She said it out loud, in her own kitchen, on a recording your wife made with your full knowledge, because we both love you enough to give you a chance to walk away from this before it became your mistake instead of hers. Patricia stood so fast her chair scraped the floor. You had no right to record. Pennsylvania's a one-party consent state, Renata said mildly, from where she stood. Your daughter-in-law's phone, her home, her marriage. It's all admissible. I picked up the champagne flute Patricia had raised for her toast. Emily's, actually, the one meant for her, and I set it down on the table with deliberate, unhurried care, base first, so it made a single clean, final sound against the linen. We're done pretending you're the standard this family measures itself against, I said. You're not. 2 men in plain clothes who'd been quietly seated near the club entrance for the last 20 minutes. Private investigators Renata had arranged following a tip on the condo seller's suspicious wire trail, approached the table, not for arrests, but to formally serve Patricia with the paperwork for a civil suit Renata had already filed on Emily's behalf, freezing the joint account and the condo deposit pending review. Patricia stood there in her cream cardigan, holding a folder of her own undoing, in front of 30 people who had, until 90 seconds earlier, thought she was the gracious hostess of the evening. In the 6 weeks that followed, the consequences moved fast, the way they tend to once the first domino falls. The civil suit froze the condo deposit before the sale closed, and the seller, unwilling to get tangled in litigation, backed out entirely. Patricia lost her $31,000 deposit outright, non-refundable, as it turned out, a detail she hadn't bothered to read closely. The bank, alerted by Renata's documentation, flagged the joint account for review under suspicion of financial coercion, and Derek, cooperating fully once he understood the scope of what his mother had done without his informed consent on most of it, closed it and had the remaining $16,600 returned to the household account, in both names this time. Patricia's bridge club, word traveling the way it does in that particular zip code, quietly stopped inviting her to their Thursday games. Her country club membership, sponsored originally by a friend who'd been at that dinner, was not renewed the following spring. Derek and Emily separated within 2 months, not because of the money alone, but because the money had shown Emily, in stark, undeniable numbers, exactly how much of a partner Derek had chosen to be for 11 months. He didn't fight the divorce. He apologized, more than once, and he meant it. I want to be clear about one thing. I never went after Derek the way I went after his mother. He was manipulated, weak in a specific and human way, not malicious. When his business, a small landscaping company he ran on the side, lost a major contract that fall because the client had heard some family drama through the club grapevine, I made a call. I didn't clear his name out of love for him anymore. I did it because the 8 guys who worked for him, mowing lawns and laying stone in 90-degree heat, didn't deserve to lose their jobs over his mother's greed. The contract was reinstated within a week. That's the kind of man I want to still be, even when I've just taken someone apart at a birthday dinner. For months later, on a night when a cold October rain was coming down sideways, our doorbell rang a little after 9. I opened it to find Patricia standing on my porch without an umbrella, her cream cardigan soaked through and gray at the shoulders, a single duffel bag by her feet. The condo deal was gone. Her sister in Ohio, I later learned, had taken her in for a while and then asked her to leave. She had nowhere left on her own list of options, and so she'd come to the bottom of it, my porch. "Robert," she said, and her voice had none of the country club polish left in it. "I have nowhere to go. Just for a few nights. Please." I stood in the doorway, the porch light throwing rain shadows across both of us, and I felt the old instinct in me, the one that says a person on your doorstep in a storm is a person you help. I let it pass through me and out the other side. "I hope you find somewhere warm and safe tonight, Patricia," I said. "It won't be here." I closed the door, gently, the same deliberate way I'd once set down a champagne glass in front of 30 witnesses. Carol was in the kitchen when I came back, 2 mugs of tea already made, steam curling up into the lamplight. She didn't ask what happened. She'd heard enough through the window. "You did the right thing," she said, sliding a mug toward me. "I know," I said, and sat down across from her. "Doesn't mean it felt good." "It's not supposed to," she said. "It's supposed to be right." We drank our tea and listened to the rain, and for the first time in almost a year, the house felt entirely, quietly ours. Here's what I learned from all of this. The people who underestimate you are handing you the exact advantage you need. All you have to do is let them keep believing it a little while longer. Kindness and stupidity are not the same thing, and the moment someone confuses one for the other, they've already started writing the story of their own downfall. Protecting your family sometimes means staying quiet a lot longer than feels comfortable, so that when you finally do speak, every word already has the proof to back it up. If someone in your life has ever tried to convince you that you were too soft, too old, or too foolish to notice what they were doing, tell me about it in the comments. I read every one. If this story hit home, hit that like button, subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one.